for the first time in 600 years, is the first law of the Spanish state that is dedicated to protect the Roma community and not to attack the Roma community. First law that is addressing the issue of racism against the Roma community in Spain. And it is recognizing this type of crime with a prison sentence, which is quite protective. And what I expect now is to have the first sentence on Antigipsysm as either hate crime or hate speech.
Welcome to the Amaro Voice podcast. Amaro is from the Romani language and means our Roma, Sinti and Trola voices among Europe. My name is Romani. I'm a journalist and Roma activist from Germany. Today I will interview Dr. Ismael Cortes. Hello Ismael Cortes, thanks for your time. Of course, you can introduce yourself.
Pleasure to be in this amazing podcast. My name is Ismael Cortes. I'm working at the University of Heidelberg as a postdoctoral researcher as well. I'm an associate professor at the UNESCO Institute of Philosophy in Spain.
Thanks for watching us. If you want to support us, you can like this video and give us a comment. And to not miss our episodes, you can subscribe our YouTube channel. If you are watching or listening right now on Spotify or listen on Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, you can follow our podcast. To get all informations from us, go and follow us on Instagram and TikTok, Amaro Voice. Could you share a bit about your personal journey? How did your identity as a Spanish Roma shape your path into politics and academia?
That's a complex question. When we talk about identity, there are always different layers of identity. First, as a Roma person, as a Gitano from South Spain, this already gives me an identity around my family. Yeah, these are the first learning of my life. Yeah, through my mother, through my grandfather, through my father, and my extended family. This is how I got to know what the Roma identity is all about in a particular context, geographical and cultural context. And from there, I make an inquiry about myself and about the society where I live in. And I can prove from the very beginning, when I was a child, around 3-4 years, when I was aware of my reality, that my identity was different of the others, from the identity of the other. Yeah. When I visited my extended family, they live in separate neighborhoods. Also, all the type of parties that we made, how we celebrate life, how we celebrate weddings, the kind of jobs that my family had. So it gives me a quite different perspective from what I see the rest of my colleagues, non-Roma, had in their everyday life.
What motivated you to become an advocate for Roma rights at the national level, and what challenge have you faced in that role so far?
That came much later in my life path. Actually, at university, I was more conscious of what was the social and economic reality of my country and what was the particular situation or location of the Roma in that hierarchy. And I realized that both in academia but also in politics, there were very little written about the situation of the Roma in Spain and there also Europe-wide. And I took the responsibility already as a student to publish about Roma history and Roma culture in magazines, in radio podcasts, like radio programs, like you have now, and try to disseminate the knowledge and to spread the knowledge about my own identity and the identity of my people that is clearly under-recognized or mis-recognized in Spain, but also elsewhere. So this was a personal responsibility that I took from an intellectual perspective as a student, and then from there I've been going deeper and deeper during my MA and PhD studies and the research that I have done. Yeah. Developing more and more a different perspective from the mainstream Roma studies that were hegemonic 15, 20 years ago, that were much more focused on socioeconomic dimensions of the Roma realities. And I turned it into the civil cultural rights, the political and the cultural dimensions of the Roma identity, and also the Roma articulation of different fights, not only asking for better economic conditions, but also for channels of political and cultural participation in a way that the Roma community and Roma voices can also contribute to shape the wider perception of the societies that we live in.
What are some key differences or unique cultural aspects between the Roma and Kale communities within Spain, or example, some of them also Gitano, and how are their voices represented politically?
There is no formal representation at the political level in the case of Spain for the Gitanos community. There is a historical process since the transition in the 1978, transition from dictatorship to democracy, that articulated Roma participation in public life through NGOs. And this is already a handicap by the political structure of Spain already. Why? Because it limits the Roma participation to concrete marginal space, that is the role that NGOs have in shaping public policies. That is very little. I hope that from now on, more and more Roma will be engaged in media, like we're doing now, media, but also mainstream media, intellectual debates broadly, in magazines, newspaper, TV, and other sphere of culture, but also in politics itself, in the different democratic assemblies, whether city hall, autonomous regional congress, or national European parliament, where decisions are made and legislation is in the end made. So I think that the Roma people has to move beyond the comfort zone NGO participation, which is very much necessary, but it's not sufficient.
Yeah, I think I agree. Also, now it's also a good time, like example with media, you mentioned media, but also mainstream media. So sometimes for Romani people in Europe, you don't have always the possibility to be in mainstream media, or they make anti-Gypsistic reports in mainstream media. So now, if new way of media, with like social media or other stuff, you have also the possibility to do your own thing and to represent your community, to make education about your community. So there's always new ways. So how do you think the general Spanish society perceives the Romani community today, and has that perception changed in recent years?
There is a stereotyped perception of the Roma community in Spain by majority society. It's portrayed usually by media, but also by other cultural channels like TV series or even historical novels that portray the Roma community through common tropes, like the thief, the child theft, the exotic woman, the marginalized neighborhood where people live outside of the law. Yeah, so these kind of common places that you can find in Spain, but also in other countries of Europe, where the reality of the Roma community is not portrayed in its own variety, but it's reduced to either to criminality or to the exotic and entertaining dimensions of the Romani identity. So it's based on prejudices and stereotypes. There is no real possibility today for the Roma to raise their own voices in mainstream media. So, and as you mentioned before, there is a power imbalance here because on the one hand, society is projecting an image, stereotyped image of the Roma community in the mainstream media, but then few Roma voices are talking in the first-hand experience, but in very marginal, either social media, radio, podcast, but with a very different impact in the public opinion. So there is no equal competition in this sense. So it would be desirable to have both channels, like their own Roma media, but also to have the possibility to go into the mainstream media in order to influence the public opinion, and in the end, to change the narrative, because there is no democracy is about competing narratives, and you always and the construction of different alternatives. But in the case of the Roma, the narrative about Roma, there is a monopoly, of the stereotypes, narratives constructing. There is a misinterpretation of the Roma identity that is circulating in the mainstream media, and there is no alternative. Yeah, if you go through the different newspapers and the different TV channels, you will find like almost a regime of truth about the Roma. So the same narrative, the same pattern repeated in various channels. And I think it's time for the Roma to bring their own narrative into this public sphere.
Thank you. So on Amaro Voice, we have the rubric called Learning Romani Language. Learning Romani Language, where we like to share with our guests the different dialects and also if they speak the language to compare in 3 words. So I would like to ask you, do you speak the Romani language, but also in general, how is it for the Roma, Kale or Gitano community in Spain? Do they speak Romanes, or is it like a little different? Because I heard about it, I read some articles that it's also some people mix it with Spanish language.
Yeah, it's quite different because in Spain we call it the Kale dialect, but it's quite mixed with Spanish, especially in grammar terms. And we almost lost the language, the Romanes, in the sense that other Roma communities have it in other countries of Europe, like let's say Czech Republic, Romania, or the Balkan countries. So yes, we have a certain variety of words that we use, especially inside the community and inside the family, but the language as such, we lost it time ago, centuries ago.
Yeah, that's certainly so. Example, my dialect is called the Arli dialect. Is from the Western Balkan, and also some parts of North Greece, but mostly Kosovo, Serbia, North Macedonia. And our community is originally from the Ottoman Empire, from the Turkey. So we have in our dialect the languages a lot of mixed with Turkish words. So also we don't have 100% just Roma words. We have also many Turkish and also some Serbian words. So it's very mixed. If you have some words from the Kali dialect, then we can compare. You can just give me the words, and I will start just basic. If you speak like the first word is why.
We don't have that word in the Kale.
In my dialect, we say just soske. And do you have a word for how?
For how, yeah, for how you can say like sad. It's not really used in the Kale, let's say the community speaking.
Can you give me some like 1, 2 examples of words what like the Kale dialect use, and then we can compare example with my dialect.
Yeah, we can say, for example, part of the body, like for the hands. How do you say your hands?
We say was.
Bastis.
hmm Yeah, it sounds similar.
And then, for example, for the mouth, we use the muy,
Yeah, we also muy.
but some other communities use it for the face itself.
Yes, we use for both. We say muy for mouth, but also for face. So for both we use muy.
For the eyes, for example, we use sakai, that other communities use yakai.
Yeah, we say yak or yaka. It depends, like one or both.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you. This was learning Romani language. Learning Romani language. So my next question is also on topic. When I was at the Roma Week, and you had also you was part of a panel, and then you was also talking about this topic. So Spain recently recognized anti-Gypsyism as punishable hate crime. So how significant is this for the Roma community, and what particular impact do you expect it to have?
It is quite significant because it's for the first time in 600 years, it's the first law of the Spanish state that is dedicated to protect the Roma community and not to attack the Roma community. First law that is addressing the issue of racism against the Roma community in Spain. And it is recognizing this type of crime with a prison sentence, yeah, which is quite protective. And what I expect now is to have the first sentence on anti-Gypsyism as either hate crime or hate speech that can make like a either substantial fine, or if we are talking about a more serious crime, to have even prison sentence. In that way, we can build a precedent, and then from there to have a jurisprudence on crimes against the Roma community labeled as such.
So some critics say that while laws exist, enforcement remains weak. What mechanism or reforms would you like to see to ensure real protection for Roma people?
So the mechanisms, you're right. Yeah. So any law is not enough by itself. You need enforcement mechanism that it should come both, first of all, from the part of the judiciary itself. Yeah, the judiciary body, the prosecutors, the judges, but also the lawyers themselves. They have to organize, they have to educate themselves. And in that sense, what I will do is to have mandatory training for the judiciary so they can educate themselves on what hate speech, hate crime is all about, and then what is the specificity of anti-Gypsyism and how anti-Gypsyism is affecting the Roma life on daily basis. And on the other hand, it's also a task for the Roma organizations themselves. They should also educate themselves on the judicial mechanism to denounce, to report, and in the end to build a case in order to go in front either the police or the public office of the prosecutor in order to denounce when they suffer a case of anti-Gypsyism, because it is a crime, yeah, and the law and is protecting us.
So, in your view, how important is education, both in schools and public discourse, in combating anti-Gypsyism? promoting Roma history and identity?
It is very important. So the role of means of communication when you make any law, but especially this law that are aimed to protect particular communities in order to create public awareness. In Spain, for example, we have a particular gender law anti-violence. Yeah, it's tackling the violence against women in Spain since 2007, and the law was very successful, partially because of the role of the means of communication. Yeah, how they are covering every and any case of violence against women in Spain, especially crime. So you create a public awareness, and also in collaboration with the public institutions. Whenever there is a crime against a woman in Spain, you have the entire city hall, and in some cases, even wider institution. Yeah, they coordinate and they condemn the cases of violence against women. So I think this is something that should be done also in the case of the Antigipsysm, this coordination between public institutions and media, so they can echo each time that there is a crime against the Roma community. But what is happening is rather the opposite. Yeah, it's that the media try to justify why violence against Roma communities is legitimate. So there is a lot to do there. And then when we talk about educations in a wider sense, yeah, not restricted to a classroom, but also in the sphere of culture, in the sphere of media, there is much to do, both in combating anti-Gypsyism, but also in teaching about Roma history and Roma culture. Yeah, because you know that most of the time there are two basic figures that have been used to portray the Roma identity. One is the criminal, and the other one is the joker. Yeah, so either society uh, make a joke on us, smoke on us, or they criminalize us. Yeah, and then in the case of women, all the issue of sexualization and exotism, but they don't cut the variety of the Roma identity in all the different manifestations, culture, education, work, the intellectual and cultural dimension of the Roma community that is very rich. Yeah, not only in terms of dance and music, yes, but also in any other field of science and research that we have more and more a new generation of highly educated Roma across Europe that are making exceptional contributions to society, and this is completely overshadowed by the stereotypical and racist narratives.
Hate crime also starts when people are unwell educated about Roma history, anti-Gypsyism, just living with having stereotypes about one part of a community. So I think also this goes also well with the laws because more people who are not part of the community are educated about anti-Gypsyism means also maybe less cases about hate crime. So looking forward, what are your hopes or next goals for Roma advocacy, both in Spain and across Europe?
First, I want to say that I very much agree with what you have said right now, because the seeds of hatred only can grow in a soil of ignorance. Yeah, and precisely with the Roma community and all the minorities, it is very easy to spread hatred against us because the knowledge is minimum. Yeah. So when you know nothing about a community, it's very easy to believe anything if someone tell you, especially if you learn about the Roma community in media or even sometime in the educational system, and you don't know by first hand who the Roma community is. So it's very manipulation. It's very easy, and the only um, treatment The only proper treatment against this illness is knowledge production, and is disseminating the knowledge about the Roma identity by Roma and also led by Roma, because this is how other societies produce knowledge about themselves and other communities. But I think ignorance and hatred are hand with hand in most of the cases. For the future, what I would like to see is precisely so first, two things, like decreasing anti-Gypsyism in the majority society and increasing Roma pride inside the Roma communities across Europe. And for that, we need a lot of work in both directions. I think the issue of culture and education is another key issue, understood in a wider sense, not restricted to the classroom, but considering media, social media, museum, all the channels of arts and culture, and also intellectual productions, books, novels, poems. Yeah, so all the resources that other communities have built upon their own identity, their own narrative, and for that we have some responsibility, but also we need allies, and we need majority society and mainstream institutions to share a space and to make a space for us. This is also a highly discriminatory field, the field of public institutions, cultural institutions and political institutions, that they push the Roma voices, the Roma profile to the margins of NGOs, that are by far less powerful than the public institutions where you build the foundations and also the future of our common society. I think this is something that I would like to see in the future, and that society as such is failing. If we see even the composition of the last European Parliament, there is no Roma voice in there, while before we used to have at least 2, 3, even in some legislature we had 4. So this is also a sign, it's a symptom that something is worsening in the evolution of the relations between majority society and the Roma people.
So we are almost coming to the end on Amaro Voice. We always like to ask our guests about their anecdote. So do you have any anecdote? Can be related to your work, can be a serious story, can be also a funny story. So yeah.
Yeah, so there is an anecdote that it shows the level of anti-Gypsyism in society. So I was working in the Spanish Parliament in Madrid, and I have an appointment with a group of Roma youngsters. And they came by train, and then by train they have to go by metro to the main square of Madrid, that is Plaza del Sol. And when they get off of the metro there, it was like 3 or 4 police surround them and ask for the identity cards. Yeah, and start to ask them why are they in Plaza del Sol, what are they doing, and they even accuse them of being pickpocketers, stealing the wallets of the people in the metro. So then they explain, no, we were invited by the parliament, we have a meeting, this is a formal invitation. They even show the email that I sent them. So in the end, I have to go from the parliament to the Plaza del Sol and talk to the police and explain that they are actually my guests, and I invited them to come to the parliament that is, by the way, 5 minutes from this main square in Madrid. And then I had a talk with the police, explaining precisely what anti-Gypsyism is about and how prejudices were acting in this very awkward situation. So it's an anecdote that it ended up like being a strange situation. Yeah, in the end, we laugh all together and we make a joke, but it is something very serious. Yeah, we could make our meeting, but imagine if they were like just freely moving in Madrid without having an appointment with a member of parliament. So most probably they will be not only identified, but probably detained, even though they were innocent, of course.
Yeah, so you mentioned one thing about the pickpocket. So I heard about this. Is also now a new trend on social media. So I saw many videos on Instagram Reels, but also TikTok, where people just go in Spain or in France. They go to the city or train station or in trains. They record. They go to some Roma people and they record with their phone and they scream and shout like pickpocket, pickpocket, and confront them, insult them, and just record them. And even many examples what they show, it's even there was doing nothing, just traveling, and so there was like recorded as labeled as thieves. But so this is also now in social media, sadly, a new trend that people go and have a lot of followers with this and just record Romani people.
Fortunately, the normal people, they play to be police, when they are not. And this is, of course, against the law.
Yeah. So thank you for your time. Do you have any closing words?
Me, thank you. No, it was a pleasure being in your podcast, and I hope that this can be extended and can be developed into a format that can reach wider audiences, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. It was also a pleasure for me having you here for the interview. Thanks for watching or listening. Ciao and der Blesser. This podcast is funded by the Stiftung Erinnerung, Verantwortung und Zukunft e.V.Z. As part of the project Amaro Voice, digitale Bildungsarbeit über die Communities der europäischen Sinti und Roma bei der NGO Medien- und Kulturzentrum Deutscher Roma e.V.